All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr. SEC basketball transfers to talk about. We said
Yes.
we did this whatever day that was. That we were going to do more of these and try to catch you up on a lot of stuff because we just can't stay caught up on every single thing going on. We can't do a single video for everything. So we're like, hey, these are going to be your roundups where we try to add a bunch of stuff in. We'll still do kind of the way you've been seeing it for some of the top players out there. We'll still do single videos if we can get to it within the time frame that they commit. And it's just, as we know, very chaotic. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Max went back to yesterday. There was some significant stuff to catch up on. Lamar Wilkerson, of course, picking Indiana over Kentucky. That was a significant decision because we had kind of teased that as a potential for the Cats days ago. Kentucky fans thought that was going to be in the cards. It was not. Meanwhile, you've got some teams really starting to pick things up a bit. Ole Miss, we talked about them as a team that didn't have a lot just yet, but they picked up a couple key players over the past 24 hours. Arkansas has picked up a couple key players. We got to one of them with Nick Pringle, but little did we know Malik Ewan was going to do that right after we released the Pringle video.
After.
You and I were doing other things for the rest of the evening, so we didn't get a chance to do the video on that, so we're going to tie it into this. Auburn continues to roll. Eaglestaff decommits from South Carolina. Our guy we thought was locked into the Gamecocks. He's out of there. I mean, there's your starting point for the day. So,
yeah, and you didn't mention a few other. There's a bunch that's going on. JUCO commits for Auburn. Otega Owe enters the draft while maintaining eligibility. You have Xavier Brown reportedly following his assistant coach to Oklahoma to be a point guard there. You have big time portal point guard visiting Florida. And then Cedric Coward, the Washington State transfer, 6'6" beast, has Alabama and Florida on his final school. Probably the wildest day of the portal yesterday. It took off like a cannon yesterday with the decommitments, commitments, NBA decisions. But I think no question about it, winner of the day, the Hogs, solidifying that front court. You get the Final Four experience, the offensive rebounding, the hustle, the toughness out of Nick Pringle, the graduate, and then the dynamic offensive maestro, Malik Ewan, coming from the Seminoles. Big, big, big day for John Calipari and the Hogs. You now match that up with Trevon Brazil, and I don't know how to say his last name, but Kareem Ratel, if the R is silent, but the Lebanese international pickup, they're solidifying that front court. Blake, we got a roster shaping up here in Fayetteville.
Yeah, the Hogs starting to look pretty good. I think that's definitely one of the things that stood out, not just from yesterday, but now as a whole, as we put that into the context of the SEC here. And I mean, we mentioned kind of the aspect of Pringle. Yeah, I mean, it's a good move because that's the kind of guy they needed, and we kind of angled it that way in the video we did yesterday. We mentioned kind of pairing him with Ewan would be significant because that does solidify the front court after the guys that you lost from last season, we said, and it's a different look too. I think that's what's going to be most intriguing is these two guys are going to play a different way than the front court you saw last year a little bit with Arkansas. So, yeah, I mean, I think Cal certainly doing some good work right now, and we know that's a team that's going to be kind of relying on underclassmen too, with the sophomores that are returning, the freshmen coming in. So that was really important to kind of build that front court with a little more experience. Certainly, as we said, Pringle has that third SEC team. And yeah, so Arkansas in a good spot. I don't think there's any question about that when we talk about just kind of the significance of that. And I mean, again, we did talk about Pringle in depth. We didn't do as much on Ewan, but I mean, you said it, Max. I mean, here's a guy that just, you look at the numbers and just did a lot of things for Florida State last year. And I think, like we said, the most interesting aspect now is just pairing those guys and seeing how Cal uses them just based on knowing that they're going to be two of the guys they lean on heavily next season.
Unbiased Brim is in the chat, Blake, one of our most passionate Hog fans. Been waiting all week for these. So the kind of the development was that Pringle and Ewan silently committed a good bit ago, early April. And then finally just having the announcements yesterday. So I'm sure Brim was excited about that becoming official. So this is a quote from Malik on the fit of Arkansas. He says, "I like their style of play. I'm going to be able to screen and roll or pop outside, and I can also be that passing playmaker if needed." He said, "Coach Cal is a man of his word. When we talk, it's more than just basketball. The assistants are also great, extremely hands-on here. My goal is to help Arkansas win and someday play in the NBA." That's from Malik himself. Just real quick, a little bit of background on him. Entering into the portal, his top 5 schools here as the recruitment was heating up was obviously Arkansas, Kansas, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Virginia was his list. Obviously, Leonard Hamilton, the legendary Seminoles coach, career coming to an end. So Ewan hops in the portal, and it's Calipari who is going to get the 9 double-doubles from last year, 20 or more points 5 times. And we do have an SEC game from last year, Blake. Malik Ewan played LSU in early December, and he just had 17 points and 17 rebounds in that game. So if you're wondering about how is he going to translate to the SEC, there you go, 17 and 17. How do you like that?
Not bad. I think you'll take that if you're an Arkansas fan. So, yeah, I think I'm pretty excited about what he's going to bring to the table. And yeah, I mean, these are 2 guys that, like we said, it's when you're building your roster, that's where Cal kind of had the understanding of like, all right, our backcourt's pretty much like we know who's leading the way in the backcourt, but it's a younger group right now. I mean, there's still, again, other additions to be made on this roster and decisions that are going to be made. But I think to be able to get some older guys like that by adding, these guys to the mix, that's going to help out a little bit. The size is there. I think that's certainly something we've seen in the SEC. It's never a bad thing to have, multiple 6'10" or higher, type guys. And they definitely kind of have that now when you look at the makeup of this roster. So, yeah, I think Arkansas is sitting in a pretty good spot. They're trending up. There's no question about it when you look at kind of where they sit right now. And then, yeah, as let's see here, as Earl brings up, still have some roster spots available. So we'll see how they fill those. Also, I think that's where you're going to see the depth building out in the backcourt a bit is certainly the next priority, I think, for Arkansas, without question, probably looking at it from that standpoint. So, yeah, I mean, Arkansas, one of the teams we noted in the title heating up, Max, another team heating up, Ole Miss, because as we said, they were a team that did not have much. And we said, when we were ranking our biggest winners in the transfer portal so far, we said they were kind of an incomplete because they just, still had a lot of spots to fill. But past what, I mean, I guess, yeah, like both guys really in the same close to a time frame together, right? With Storr and Johnson, they both are headed to Ole Miss. Of course, I think, you look at Storr specifically coming from Kansas, but we know also what he was able to do at Wisconsin. I think that's going to be, kind of the thing that really, if you're looking at, all right, what's the best case scenario here? I mean, this guy averaged 17 a game at Wisconsin a couple of years ago. Last year at Kansas, a little bit of a different story as we know, but nonetheless, I mean, I think it's an exciting addition because, like we said, that was such an older team last year for Ole Miss. You knew you were losing so many guys off that roster. Front court have some pretty good foundation pieces to lead the way. But for now, it was kind of filling out what's that wing backcourt start to look like. And these 2 guys certainly fit the bill there.
Yeah, so obviously you're probably familiar with AJ Storr just because of how high level his recruitment was in the portal last year after the Wisconsin year that he had, and then obviously doesn't live up to the hype at Kansas this year. Things didn't work out, but you have that Wisconsin year to look back on, and you just see the consistency of the offense, and there's something there. And this is Beard's 2nd or 3rd time getting in on a Storr recruitment. So there's clearly something he likes there. something he believes in AJ there. And then Corin Johnson's extremely underrated pickup, like extremely underrated. He was supposed to be the main man next to Checky Hutburn last year at Louisville. I believe he was the sixth man of the year at Washington the year before that. So coming off injury, he's just been waiting to play. Corin Johnson at 6'2". Now you have all upperclassmen in that projected starting lineup except Corey Chest, who already has a full year of SEC play. And just like that, Blake, literally within an hour yesterday, you go from we don't have a single starting guard or wing to you're probably starting Johnson in store and just waiting to pick up this true point guard here. And you might have that starting five set in stone like that. That happened quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say those came. It's weird. We're just like, all right, it's like the meme, like we're waiting, we're waiting, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, like they just. And we knew that that's how it works in the portal, right? It's just when we talk about like the domino effect and all that, like, yeah, all right, this guy's going there, all right, boom, like we got our other piece right here, and we're starting to fill out the roster now. So, yeah, I mean, Ole Miss, as we said, was going to be one of those teams that just with the experience they had, you knew that they were going to be the one that had to do a lot of work this offseason, and they are far from finished in terms of having to fill out this roster a bit. But I think it's certainly a good nucleus to start with when we think about, okay, here's who they've got returning in the front court. Now you add these guys to the mix, like you said. I think Johnson's going to be a bit underrated, probably overlooked a bit by most people, but I think he's clearly going to play a significant role, you would think, on this roster. And then, like we said, all the reasons we mentioned that store the possibility of getting him back to that Wisconsin level will be certainly a top priority, I'm sure, for Chris Beard and his staff. And if they can, I mean, that's going to be big for Ole Miss. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big if, but if they're able to get Store back to that Wisconsin level, now you've got one of the more consistent wing scorers. It's just, you don't know, given that year last year, kind of big hit to the confidence. Who knows what you're going to get, but you do have the history there of him being a prolific high major scorer. And you already have Malik Dia there. So you got a few guys that can really play some offensive matchups and some versatility there that they didn't have last year with the wing. It was really Morrell playing through injury the whole year, trying to get out there. So could be a little bit of a new look Ole Miss backcourt / perimeter, if you want to call it that.
All right. I know there's some Kentucky fans here. I want to talk about a couple things. So let's hit on a few of those things with Kentucky. And we've got a lot more stuff to get to here. We're going to go kind of rapid fire on a lot of this, but hey, it's the transfer portal. It's chaos. We're going to just give you quick hitters and go from there. So we mentioned earlier, Eaglestaff has decommitted from South Carolina. At the time, we were thinking, man, this is a huge one for Lamont Paris and company. And no longer staying in Columbia, is going to head elsewhere. I know Kentucky fans are looking to swing and hit this time, perhaps on Eaglestaff. I know Alabama fans have been kind of talking a bit. Kansas being talked about out there, it seems, as you would expect, Max. This is one of those where these probably don't surprise us as much anymore. Initially, when the transfer portal era started, like some of these, oh man, you're telling me this guy went there and then he decommitted X amount of days or whatever later. These just aren't that surprising because and that's not even a South Carolina thing. It's anywhere. Like we know this is how it works when it comes to until that guy is there and it's completely done. You just know what's going on right behind the scenes. And we know what all's out there in terms of the opportunity available and everything like that. So this is obviously a bit of a hit for South Carolina, just given the way we had kind of talked about this being, a marquee pickup. Now they did get Michi Johnson back, as we talked about. Studi's coming back, but this is one that stings a little probably if you're a South Carolina fan.
Yeah, what's next? Michi back to Ohio State,
right?
Right. But watch out for West Virginia. The Eaglestaff. I've seen
that's another one.
Some West Virginia out there. But hey, now you got. It stings. It really does. However, it helps having Miles Studi, all right, coming back. So you can slide Miles Studi right into that wing spot that Eaglestaff was going to share with them. Obviously, it's a big hit. The guy put up over 40, 50 points. Like, come on. Of course, it's going to sting. However, he put out the statement, said it was a real hard decision. What are you going to do? Now you're looking at probably Michi at the 2 combo guardish, and Miles Studi out there on the wing. And that's what you got. That's what you got right now. Still a lot of work.
Yeah. A lot of work still to be done for South Carolina. This was significant, I think, one there in terms of transferring out when he had just transferred in. But like I said, I think you mentioned West Virginia. Look, Big Baller Brad, I'm not saying he's going to Alabama. But I know, trust me, we're all well aware you don't want him. We get it, okay? But I know there are a lot of fan bases when you do have these scenarios and you look back and are like, okay, my team had interest in this guy at one point. Let's see if there's a little bit of a circling back around possibly, or, that's just part of the way it works. So we'll see. Again, Kentucky fans have been talking about the same thing about wanting to get him added to the mix. So yeah, these things are a little more unpredictable, Max, than they used to be. Go figure. It's a little more, speaking of unpredictable, right? Again, we talk about, and we'll quickly get to this on the Wilkerson thing. I know Kentucky fans have, digested this over the past, close to 24 hours now, but we will just at least talk about it quickly. He does choose Indiana over Kentucky. People were talking in the stream, whatever day, Monday. That could have been like that one more little piece that all of a sudden Kentucky's a top 5 team in the country heading into the next season. They could still get there potentially. You and I have talked, and we're not going to by any means do our rankings yet for the SEC looking ahead, but there's no question Kentucky is going to be up there right now when you compare their roster to everyone else's. They've got a pretty high ceiling. They should be one of the favorites as it stands right now to win the SEC. But missing out on a guy like that. We talked about some other guys that they've been in the mix for. Now you turn your attention elsewhere. And like we said, that's where you tie in the Otega Owe entering the draft, like what kind of impact that would have. We may do a video on that separately. We may not get into that too much right now, but because we have a little time to figure out, if he's going to stay or not. But we may talk about that more in depth. But certainly, little shuffling around and trying to figure out where you go next if you're Kentucky.
Yeah. Hey, Indiana got a good one. Let's not sugarcoat it. Wilkerson has kind of been tabbed as like the Chaz Lanier, the Dalton Connect, the whatever you like, that mid-major, extremely efficient offensively, over 20 points per game, north of 40-something% from 3. Synergy numbers are off the charts. He was that guy in the portal this year. And you would love to have him. That's what's been happening though in the SEC this year. Yaxel goes to Michigan instead of coming to the SEC. That was a big one. The SEC has been missing on a few of the top guys. It stings. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here and tell you Lamar Wilkerson stinks and that you didn't want him. Missed out on a good recruit. It happens. However, let's come back down to earth after there's been some time to digest. The backcourt right now, you've got Perry and Chandler after a year, with Jalen Lowe, the Pitt transfer, and Jasper Johnson, freshman, coming in. Obviously with Owe in the draft, still remaining his eligibility. And then Cam Williams at 6'8", really versatile, can kind of put him on that wing category if you want. Like, how many backcourts in the nation are you taking over that right now? There's definitely some out there, but there's not a lot, right? The point I'm trying to make is, compared to some other front courts or back courts, this is one of the best in the league still. So yeah, it stings. It sucks. Missed a big time recruit, but it's not the end of the world is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And we're still early, remember, as we said. I mean, it was week or two more last year, maybe, when Pope completely filled out the roster, after the coaching change and all that. So, so we'll see how it plays out. Still a ways to go to look at their roster heading into next season. And again, we'll see. We'll talk about it in terms of potential options out there and the Owe impact and all that stuff there. Believe it or not, Max, you're not going to believe this. Non-Kentucky fans in the chat are not as high on Kentucky heading into next season. But I will tell you someone that everyone should be high on, and that is the one and only Mother Carol in here on break, the happy surprise. Yeah, we went a little later today, had some stuff to do this morning. So We did start our stream a little later today. Usually that will not be the case. We'll stick to kind of our 9 a.m. Central start throughout the, the off season, but start a little bit later. And also, it's just like it really doesn't matter when we start these because there's going to be moves that are made 5 minutes after we get done. We're like, oh, why didn't we talk about that? Well, because it didn't happen before then. So, yeah, still plenty of that to come on that. But all right, let's talk about some other stuff here. And I'm going to try to get to some comments. We got a lot sitting here that I want to try to get to. Carter, by the way, multitasking right now, ready to listen to this while rebuilding Missouri and College Hoops 2K8. We'll be rebuilding someone, Max and I. We've decided. I will be the player/coach. Max will be the official GM and the owner of the team. So we will be picking our SEC team. Get your votes in now on who you would like us to start a season with. We'll be playing those games out live. That's our plan throughout the offseason. So that will be a lot of fun. Let's see what else we've got here. We will get to some other things. $5 super chat from Zach. Finally made the live stream, working the night shift. Tough, yes. Thanks for going a bit later. Yeah, probably won't always be the case, Zach, but we'll do this sometimes with that. So, yes, Auburn picked up. We can quickly get into that a little bit. Again, Auburn kind of keeps going in the right direction. Yesterday, we talked about the Keshawn Murphy pickup. We did that in a separate video. If you're an Auburn fan, check that out on the channel. But, yeah, get another big man joining the group now for the Tigers. And so, as we said, front court was going to be something that Auburn would look at and have to address, just knowing the subtractions you had from last year's roster or this past season's roster. And so by picking up Keshawn Murphy, the guys we already talked about, Hall coming in, now they get the JUCO 7-footer. The numbers continue to go up for the Tigers.
Yeah, he was I think it's Oparum. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I definitely am getting it wrong.
We got time to get name pronunciations right. We got plenty of time.
I was watching highlights and there was no commentary, so I couldn't snag the pronunciation. Defensive player of the year in his JUCO conference, though, as a freshman. 7'6" wingspan. Think JoJo Tugler, but add a few inches on the height. Really, really strong defensive prospect. Had a bunch of high major looks. I don't know how much to expect right away. You're getting a JUCO prospect that was he just played his freshman year. Normally when you get in JUCO, you're getting guys a little bit older. So not exactly sure. I want to look into the quotes and everything from the coaching staff a little bit more. Nonetheless, though, you've got a guy with 4 years of eligibility left because of the JUCO year, right? Only 1 year. 7'6" wingspan, defensive player of the year in his conference. It's an exciting front court addition because now you got Murphy, who isn't really that like true, 5 through and through center, a little bit more of a flex option. Operum or whatever. Sorry, man, but he's a true 5.
We're going to start just using initials until we get pronunciations. EO is what we're going to call it. So you're telling me that Auburn's got a chance to have a guy for a couple of years and develop him. Boy, that hasn't worked in the past for Bruce Pearl, has it? Telling you, I still think one of the most underrated aspects of Bruce Pearl as a coach is he's not getting enough credit for player development. Like the guy just look at the guys he's kept in his system multiple years, anywhere he's been, and they always get better. And so I think that will be an exciting thing to look at here with this edition. So, so Auburn picks up another one there. Certainly, as we mentioned, one of the biggest winners. We said that on Monday, and that continued this week so far to this point. They have to be still in that level for sure. Let's talk about, let's see, let me make sure I didn't miss a couple here. So let's see. All right. Caden wants to talk about Texas A&M. And we go from a team that's really filling out the roster to a team that, not quite there yet, to say the least. But look, in fairness, coaching change happened. When was the hire made, Max? When they make the Bucky hire official? That was, what was it?
Last week.
Was it last week? We all know our days run together here. But I want to say it was sometime last week, right? So they have been reaching out to people. Like we see them attached to a lot of players. But yes, like they are playing from behind here. There's no question about it. Anytime you have a coaching change, you're always playing from behind because it is this era where things move so fast. And when you have it play out that way, that first season can be a little bit tough. And I know everyone say, well, look what Mark Pope did. Look what other guys done. Completely understand that. But I think this is kind of a bit of a different situation where you're looking up and you see how many guys were starting to be off the board before maybe even that was made official, right? You had some of the big transfers off the board. Other guys are kind of leaning in another direction because we know how long this stuff's been going on. Think back to teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament, right? Like all those players they're available at that point. And we just, transfer portal, Max, officially starts on a certain day, but let's all call it what it is. The transfer portal started months ago. So
it's never closed.
No, it's never closed. So A&M is playing from behind. And yes, if you look at their roster right now, I mean, there's not really a roster.
There's no roster.
There's just not a roster there. So I think they are going to obviously have a lot of work to do. And that's where, we said whoever took over as the coach is going to be interesting to see what does the support look like from the NIL, all this other stuff. I don't think we're going to completely find that out this year. I think next year is probably more realistic to know what the roster looks like. But now it is going to be interesting to see what Bucky can do over these next really week or two, because this is just, like we said, I mean, they've got to start making some additions. But I'm also not, Max, of the opinion that you just got to add people to add people. If you feel like you can still be a little bit more patient and say, get the right guys, we got to win in the SEC, then you try to wait and take your swings at the right guys. I don't think you just go out and just add anybody just yet, because it's still mid-April, but certainly something to watch here.
Yeah, I mean, they do have one starter, right? They got their point guard, which a lot of teams don't have right now. That's pretty much all they got, though, right? They got Ja'Kari Lane from North Alabama. And one thing that Ken Pom does is they do a top 5 players. They do an all-conference team, Ken Pom. And the Lipscomb power forward that transferred out, I think, to Washington was number 1 in the ASUN. Number 2 was Ja'Kari Lane, North Alabama point guard. So you got a good senior point guard, made 73s last year. And now you got to fill out. I know that they were connected to Mackenzie Mbako, however you say that last name, from Indiana, the former McDonald's All-American. So, hey, there might be something there. But just like we saw with Ole Miss, right, within an hour, they pick up Corin Johnson and A.J. Storr, and it's like, whoa, there's 2 starters. Okay. Same thing could happen with A&M any day now.
Yeah. So that's where things stand with A&M. So understandable for A&M fans. Still waiting to see what happens there. Max, the intel.
Yes.
Big Baller Brett. Big Baller Brett coming in looking for intel.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with Coward, he only played a few games this year, out with injury, was Eastern Washington for 2 years, then Washington State this past year. 6'6" beast. I'm talking instant bully ball watch list. Instant. Guy's a monster at 6'6", combo guardish, wingish. He put out a top 5, and I think it's down between Kansas, Alabama, Florida, and Washington for Coward, with Alabama and Kansas, I think, are the ones duking it out, is what my understanding is. He's going to be a top guy in the portal, though, regardless. He's a monster.
Yeah, I think Alabama and Kansas are the 2 teams searching social media over the past 24 hours. That's the ones that are definitely the most locked in there with him. So that seems to be the case there. You never know, but that seems to be the spot to look at with that. All right, Carter asks here, and we'll get to some other stuff here. But by the way, before we get to Carter's, hold on. I wanted to bring this up before we lose it here. So 10-cent pistol. If you ever put the words Indiana over Kentucky in a headline again, I will unsubscribe and start a campaign to make others do the same. Listen, guys, how many times before have we done this? Come on. We don't do this often. We're just adding in the factual statement, right? That's all we're doing here. We're not trying to play favorites with the Hoosiers. You guys know we're locked in for you guys this offseason. So, but I get it.
It's going to be crazy now.
By the way, Rothstein just put out the tweet, didn't he, about when the game's going to be played? Made the official tweet like 5 minutes ago or whenever it was. So we know the official date now for Kentucky, Indiana. Let me find it here because I think that we can add that into the discussion. So 37 minutes ago. Here we go. Next season's game between Kentucky and Indiana will be on Saturday, December 13th at Rupp Arena. Yes, that does start the multi-year series. So Now, what happens if we pick Indiana in that game? We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it, folks.
Gosh.
So Jimmy says we're adding fuel to the fire here. Come on. We're not. We love you guys. But, all right. 10-cent Pistol also asked, before I miss this one too, what people going to do when Stokes reclassifies, picks Kentucky. Yes, he's visiting another KNAU this weekend. I think he's going on the visit to Kansas, right? But yes, the 2026 top guy, Kentucky's in there, Michigan's in there. Who else is in there? Yeah, I'm probably forgetting someone, but no, I can't say that.
Isn't that his hometown though? I'm pretty sure that's the reason why he's connected. So, I'm pretty sure that's his hometown.
But we'll see. So, there you go. So,
I've seen Caleb Holt also is rumored to reclass. I think he's number 4 in the class, number 4 or 5. He might reclass as well. That's another thing. The reclass. The Fears last year.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that never happened.
Yeah. Right. Those are the ones that we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, you can't predict those easily either. So, all right, back to Carter. Do you think Missouri can make a second weekend run the next few years with Dennis Gates as coach? Seems a couple times in the tournament, Missouri's run out of gas when they get there. So I will tie this into the state of Missouri right now. I think losing C.Y. Young, like that's a tough one from an assistant standpoint. Now we know like Miami, with what they put into it financially, like I don't think Miami's struggling to go out and being able. And again, I don't know the numbers or anything on what he's paid versus what he was paid in Missouri, but like, got to think that's certainly an appealing aspect of that. But I think that to me is maybe an underrated storyline to keep an eye on here moving forward with Missouri. We talked about their roster a bit on Monday. Not really anything else of note since then, Max, right? I mean, I think are pretty updated on that. We had just mentioned it after Sean Phillips had came in. So we talked about the front court and how it was pretty loaded up. Now it was about seeing what they do in the backcourt with, we know they'd added Sebastian Mack and such. But I think, for Missouri, I think it's just going to continue to see, like, can they get the guys they need to be able to compete, right? And I think that's where too, like, I don't know the NIL numbers at Missouri. I don't know the exact spending, but remember we talked about the Lamont Paris quote of what it takes to get a starter in the SEC. And I think that's just going to be the case, not just for Dennis Gates, but everybody, right? It's just, I mean, man, like you've just got to, if you have the resources, like, you've got to hit on some of these guys, and we'll see what Missouri's roster winds up looking like. But yeah, I mean, they had a big turnaround this past season. If you're a Missouri fan, that should give you a little more confidence. I know it didn't end the way you wanted it to, but based on where they were the year before, got to be a little more confident about the direction. But some underrated storylines too, whether it's seeing how, you can compete NIL wise, losing a key assistant, how do those things play in the next season and beyond? We'll find out.
Yeah, I think people kind of forgot how good Mark Mitchell is for some reason. I don't know why, but
he's pretty good.
He's like, come on, guys. Mark Mitchell's really good. But they need a shooter. Bad. Mystery man is Anor Boateng. That is the mystery man. Very high-ranked prospect. Comes in, starts a few games in November. Then you don't see him for the rest of the year. Goes 1 of 10 from 3 on the year. I know he didn't have a full off season last year with the program. Maybe that's, this year. I don't know what to expect out of him. You got him and Cruz there kind of as your wings. Not sure what to expect out of Boat. He's the mystery man for me right now. Could end up being a starter like he was in November last year, or we didn't see him after that. So mystery there on the wing.
Shout out to Salty Tiger jumping in. Didn't get the notification. Oh, come on. Technical issues everywhere. It says War Eagle gentleman. Auburn got him a 7-foot hoss. Yeah, we talked about it. Salty Tiger. Jump on back. Listen to that. We talked about it for a few. We did mention that. Mark Mitchell, top 3 preseason SEC player of the year next year. By the way, we talked about doing this on a video. We may have one coming up for you guys. We'll look ahead to like player of the year candidates. Max and I were debating those actually yesterday, who the guys were. So teaser for an upcoming video probably here on the channel. I know Matt just asked about Tennessee. Yeah, we did talk about Tennessee quite a bit on Monday. Nothing's really changed, Max, other than just the expectation of just waiting for Rodney Rice at this point.
Yep.
I mean, that's really it. And I think our expectation is that he will wind up at Tennessee, but you wait and see at this point. So, yeah, we mentioned, I mean, Tennessee's been one of the biggest winners so far. There's no question by adding Gillespie and Jalen Carey. And if they were to add Rice, I mean, yeah, like they're up there at the top.
Yeah, Gillespie's going to be one of the top portal guys, no matter who ends up going in. You look at Evan Mia, Bart Torvik, whatever analytics you want. Gillespie's one of the best players in the nation last year, top 25-ish. Just waiting on Rice. Yeah, see if Rice follows Willard to Nova or follows Jacoby to Tennessee. After that, we'll have a better picture of what direction they need to go in.
Yeah, Tennessee's front court picture is pretty clear, but as we've talked about multiple times, it's just now we see what happens with the back court replacing the scoring there and, the shooting and those things. I think that's where we wait and see, especially if they were to miss on Rice, which, again, I don't know about that.
It's possible.
It is possible. Anything's possible in this portal. Just know that up front. But if that happens, then, yeah, we start to go back to the drawing board a bit on Tennessee to figure out where they go next. But Max, what else? Anything else that we've mentioned so many other things. I'm just like, what have we not mentioned? We've kind of gone all over the board here. Let me pull up our notes here to see if there's anything else we may have skipped over. As we said earlier, we're waiting on one for Florida. That may be one to keep an eye on. If that happens, we will likely do that in a separate video. And yeah, I mean, as we said, maybe Alabama also on the watch here, and we'll talk about some others as well as they happen. So,
yeah, if I just do a quick run through, Vanderbilt picked up Mike James. He was injured this past year. He'll probably slide in behind Tyler Nickel on the wing there.
So you get
a little
guy.
Yep. Get a little bit of wing depth. Redshirt junior, upperclassman added to the mix. You got, who else was it? Obviously the South Carolina news. Oklahoma waiting on Xavier Brown to become official, but with Rothstein's tweet, I kind of went ahead and sharpied that in there. Xavier Brown and Nigel Pack running the backcourt there for the Sooners. And then there was one more that I wanted to. Oh, yes. Ian Jackson, the North Carolina transfer, just scheduled a visit with. You want to take a guess?
I feel like I should know this.
The Bulldogs of Georgia.
Georgia. Okay.
Yep. So I know we've got a few Georgia fans here. Very good freshman, 63s, highly recruited. He would probably slide right in there to that mix of the combo guards there with Wilkinson from the ACC. Georgia, Jerry picking off the ACC's young talent. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up.
Team to keep an eye on for me the rest of this week and maybe into next week, Texas, because I think Texas has sneakily, is that a word, Max?
It is now.
It is now. I think Sean Miller's putting together a pretty good roster. When you look at their potential starting five on the Max Barr All SEC graphic, I mean, they're going to be pretty good. And now I think it's just trying to see how they build out the depth on the roster, which they've already got some. But I think Texas is a team. Keep an eye on them to see what other moves they make, because it could be the difference in saying, all right, Texas is a team that finishes fifth in the SEC, 5th to 7th, or hey, maybe they're one of those, like they're like one of your dark horse top 3 type teams heading into next season. So we'll find out, but I like what they've done, and most of that has been on the heels of just getting guys back, whether it's Mark Weaver and so forth, but Swain, adding him to the mix, and I just think that they're one that I'm intrigued by, Max, as we move forward here.
Might be the most underrated pickup for the SEC portal cycle here. Lacina, excuse me.
Yeah.
Lacina Traore. It was out all year last year with Miller. The year before that, he averaged a double-double at Long Beach State. Averaged a double-double. Averaged over, I think it was 12 and 10 he averaged. And I got a quote here from Miller real quick. Miller got interviewed after Traore went down for the season in October. So he was out all last year. Miller says, Lacina was a starter on this year's team. He improved his game as much as any player in our program. He emerged to be our team's best rebounder, low post defender, and shot blocker. Now you match him up with 7-foot Voki Titus from Florida Atlantic. That's a beast of a center duo right there.
Yeah, if you look back at Traore's numbers at Long Beach State, and I was trying to remember, so Dan Munson was still the coach there. That was before he was out. Like, he was huge for them.
Huge.
And remember, too, I think that was the year, right? That's where Munson they had said he wasn't going to return as the head coach, and yet they went and won the tournament.
Yeah.
And they got in. They lost to Arizona in the first round, but, like, he was a beast in the Big West tournament. Where he just had a huge tournament. He was one of the reasons why they got there. And so he's going to be really good there, I think.
Yep.
So I'm telling you, that Texas roster, don't sleep on the Longhorns. I think this is one where we know there was talent on that roster last year, but I think when you look at maybe what they're going to put together, sure, there's not going to be a Trey Johnson on there, but the combination of players they've gotten so far and maybe expect to get to add, they still got several spots, I think, open. Yeah, I think the Longhorns are a very interesting team. So,
yep,
there you go. All right.
My pinned tweet has the updated rosters. I update them probably 3-4 times a day, and I am about halfway through the Big East. Going to be adding the Big East as well, trying to work into all the Power Fives. So that's my pinned tweet. It's just a Google sheet. You can join viewer from anywhere, and it just gives you a way to actually see who you're going to be rooting for and stuff like that.
Yep. Check it out on Max's Twitter there. You can check out, again, all the roster movement going on in the SEC. We'll have it covered as always. Some will be in separate videos depending on when they happen. Some will be in roundup videos like this or live streams throughout the weeks. That's our plan. So we may do this again this week one more time. We'll find out. Depends on how much movement there is, or you may just get some videos. So turn on your notifications, hit subscribe, hit the like button so you don't miss anything we do here on the channel and any of the big three sports in the SEC. So we appreciate you guys watching as always. We appreciate your support of our SEC basketball content. We know it's the off season. We got a long way to go till next season, but you guys are locked in already into what's going on, and we appreciate that. So thanks as always for watching. We'll talk to you soon here at Southeastern 16.